Friday, November the 1st, and I'm out on my first hot tent camp of the year. You see, I've got my bike heavily laden up. I've got all 4 panniers on. And the place I'm heading for is a very small picnic site just off this cycleway stroke footpath. There's no vehicle access for miles, so it feels quite safe down there. You're not going to get unwanted attention after dark, hope not. There is a little jetty down there. There's a few barges moored up there where people live, but the smell of my wood burner I think will blend and meld into what's probably already being burnt. There we are. Quite a narrow S-bend here, quite a sharp turn, and it drops steeply down to the picnic site and the river. And in these woods here is where I'll find some dead fallen wood. I can see some already, and that seat there is probably what I'll use to process it. Use it as a woodworking bench. There are a few picnic tables here. They're actually metal, even though they're painted to look like wood. But they're quite overgrown and not very well looked after, like here for instance. And the reason being is when the river floods, this jetty really rises and the water just comes up here. I've been down here before and the water's been right up to that first tree. So this has been completely swamped, which is why I wanted to check it out recently. I did so on one of my recent videos. This is what we'll come and have a look at tonight. Sure, I saw some boats here earlier on. There's normally one moored there. Oh, there it is. Oh, 2 by the look of it. So now we're on this floating jetty, and you can see how it's free floating. So last time I camped here, there was a guy down here and we were chatting, and he said the recent floods have been really bad. And I said, yeah, I rode along and saw all the boats were raised, and I said I popped down and have a look and I could see the whole picnic site was flooded. And he said yes, he was thinking he may have to untether and sail downstream a little bit because this was getting really high. And he said when he was on his deck having a cigarette thinking about it about 2 o'clock in the morning, his head was up where that white tip is, so his boat must have been up to kind of about there, I'd imagine, for him to be standing up there at head height. So it just shows the range of the river. That's the old railway bridge that we've just ridden across, and then we came this side down the S-bend into the picnic site. Okay, let's go and find some dead standing wood and I'll start chopping it. Okay, I've done a bit of a recce, and because people are down there living on boats throughout the year, most of the easy wood is gone, as I suspected it would have done. There is some further up in the woods, but I think what I'm going to do is put my tent up first and then just walk up through that way. I've got my bike with the front 2 panniers on still, leant up against the tree. I've got the Mountain Cattle wigwam tent. It's just a central pole, single skin tent up, big ground sheet inside in the porchway. There's the stove jack where the pipe for the wood burner will come up. There's where the wood burner will go. And then I've got my inner tent hooked up to the central pole. Got a German Army ground sheet down. I'm just going to put my sleep mat in there, inflate it, and then loft out the sleeping bag. There's a little mini pump just blowing the air into my sleep mat. That'll take about 45 seconds to inflate. There you go, easy peasy. So this time for inflation, the air was sucked in there and forced out through that thin nozzle. Can you see? That clips onto it. And then tomorrow we do that in reverse. That will suck all the air out of the sleep mat and it'll expel it out there. You've just got to make sure that's got a clear run. And as I said, it actually shrink wraps it. It just makes deflating it and rolling it up so much easier. There's my bed ready then. So it's a Sinmat UL7 sleep mat. I've only got 2 sleeping bags. They're both Snug Pack Softies. My summer one, which was the red one, and this purple one. This is a Softie Harrier 10. It's got a low down to -12 degrees C, comfort down to -7. This will be more than warm enough here, especially with the stove going. It's not particularly cold yet. This is just a test run really for all the kit and everything. But I have got a sheet sleeping bag as well to put inside if I do need extra warmth. That normally adds a season onto it, whatever that means, a few degrees I expect. And I've just got a cheapo foam filled pillow which rolls up really small. I think I've got that from Mountain Warehouse. I don't buy expensive ones. I cannot get on with inflatable pillows, and I can't see the point in buying an expensive pillow because they get so dirty and horrible after a couple of years. It's just best to chuck it away and get a new one. Same with my cook kit. Okay, everything's now going to go in the tent sack. All my stuff bags will be in there. They can go in one of the panniers over there, and then just being organised really. I've said this before, in the winter camping and striking camp the next morning just takes so much longer. You're trying to keep everything dry, and you know, in this case I've got more kit as well. So within 15 minutes I'll be walking up through the trees and looking for some fallen wood. And I'll show you the folding saw. That's it there, over there, that pole. Here it is then. Fairly lightweight, outdoors Sundick. I'll show you what's inside. Tube with screws at either end, and that's the component part, and it's such a smart design. You never actually have to touch the sharp teeth on the blade. You push it in from underneath. So just slide the saw from underneath down into those slots there, hollows. This bar is going to be the central support. Then finally this pole is just going to go through the top of these hollow tubes. There'll be a bit of thread showing, and then the other nut tightens it in, and voila, there it is. As you tighten that nut up, you can really feel all the looseness just being tightened and squeezed, and the blade tensioning. So I'm hoping, and it's also ergonomic, so it should be much easier to use that way. I don't know, this is the first outing. So that, the axe and my gloves, we're going to have a wander up there. First time out using it, and it's really getting through the wood quite nicely. Dead fallen wood. I won't ever chop down live wood. Why would I want to? It wouldn't burn, but you can see it's fairly dry. So I'm just going to cut that down into 3 logs, otherwise it won't get into my wood burner, and then I'll split it in half with the axe. That'll be 6 big logs, plus the fact I've been scouring around, getting smaller stuff. There's the efforts of my work then. 3 little piles, the smallest stuff to get it started. Stuff that just snapped in my hand. Medium stuff, and then the logs. Whether that's enough, I don't know. I can always wander into the woods later on. There is more dead standing wood up there. I've got my head torch as well. We'll see how it goes. I think the priority now is to actually get the stove erected. That's the easy part. The main body of the stove erected just basically unfolds. It is a bit warped, you know, with heating and cooling down and just constant use. But I gave it a service recently, really rubbed it down with some WD-40 rags. So I left it out in the sun to evaporate as much as possible, but it may smoke a little bit when I first light it. And then I've just got to roll the pipe now, get it in there, and then position it under the stove jack there. I know many will be familiar with this process, but for those who aren't, the tube comes from this really clever metal. It's got shape memory, so it rolls up at 90 degrees quite tight to get in the packaging, and as soon as you've burnt it for the first time and formed it into the flue shape, it remembers that from then on. So today when I just roll it out, it wants to curl at 90 degrees. It almost goes into flue shape. Of course you have to manipulate it into the exact size you want, but there it is. So it's got a little collar at the bottom, which has got a Jubilee clip on, which holds it in place. There's a slit there for the controller. I can't remember what they're called. It's got these little teeth there, which go into there. The trick is when you put it in there, you really want that at the back. That's how you control the airflow, partly. The flue will give off a lot of heat coming off here. I'm going to cook on this tonight as well, keep the tent warm. So you don't want that over there. You wouldn't be able to manipulate it. So when you do put the flue in, you really need that slot at the back. I've made that mistake a few times and suddenly realised I cannot control the airflow at the back. So now I've just got to position it roughly underneath the stove jack and then line them up. And there it is assembled. So you can see I've ground sheeted this part out. I don't have a ground sheet there. I think you can get burn proof ones, like huge soldering pads, but I don't bother. I just stack all the wood over there, keep the beer, anything flammable. That will actually be out over on my bike tonight, well away from the ignition source. That is just basically if I need to cook in the morning, I've run out of fuel. So it's got a side window there, which is how I position it. Again, this is all trial and error, so that's nice to have that ambient light coming out there. You feed it from the front, which is why I'll have the wood pile there. You get the drift. Now, it's worth spending a couple of minutes just getting the position exactly right now. That flue really looks like it's sloping over, so I need to move the wood burner over that way, don't I? Once it's lit, you won't be able to reposition it, so now's the time to do this. It's just gone 5:30. As you can see, it's quite dark now. I'm in the vestibule, so let's put on some lights. And here we are, there's a wood pile over there, stove with the wood dryer. There's my fire starting kit, and there's all my food ready. There's the chopping board, there's the curry pack, my naan bread in there, a bit of chocolate for tomorrow. I've put the chicken breast in silver paper in there. I just didn't want animals going for that when I went for a walk earlier on, so I'll be chopping the chicken breast shortly. And there's my frying pan in there. I've got the handle for that. Everything's ready for lighting the fire and then cooking my tea. I think I'm ready to start the fire. So when I'm hot tent camping, I actually like to start it the old-fashioned traditional way rather than using matches or lighter. So I've got my fire still, got some of these wood burner starters, just condensed woodwork shavings and chippings all waxed together and compressed. So I formed a bit of a starting platform there with some logs, got a bit of cardboard, a couple of cotton makeup wipes. You get hundreds in a pack for a couple of quid. So just going to get them going first, get these going, and then I've got plenty of small twigs to feed in. I've actually got a couple of logs in there already to form a platform. I'll put the fire starters in the middle and then sort of brace it across there with some small twigs. Make sure the vents are open on the door. And as I was saying, that's the dampener at the back. I couldn't remember what it's called earlier on. So that needs to be wide open. The vents at the front need to be wide open just to get it started. And then you need to gradually close them as the fire takes, otherwise the wood would just burn too quick. So here it goes. First golet goes fairly quick. That's one of the wood burners going. That's one of the fire starters going. These start to sizzle. There you go, second one going. Pop that inside to help it along and start feeding a few small pieces of wood in. And it gets quite noisy quite quickly actually. You'll hear it roar quite soon. Okay. Give it a few minutes to do its stuff. Keep the vents wide open and the dampener open. You can see already, look, in the side it's taking. Then I'll just start feeding some logs in. There's the chicken breast ready to slice up. Get some heat at that already, so I need to get a bit of a move on. It's now about 6:30. As you can see, I've got my Woods Walker titanium wood stove lit, pumping out a lot of heat. It's got these really nice side windows and a front window on the door. I've just got one of these simple curry kits, 3 stages, and I bought out a chicken breast from Bass, chopped that and diced that, and I'm about to have chicken tikka masala, and I've also got a naan bread in some silver paper. I sprinkled some water on that each side just before I put it on top of the stove, so hopefully that's going to be nice and doughy when I open it up. Got a couple of pints of lager, well I should say 1.5 pints left. About another 5 minutes and this curry is going to be ready. Really looking forward to this. It's pitch black down here, just a little bit of glow towards Bath, and I'm right down about 30-40 feet below the Bath to Bristol cycle track embankment, and I can just hear cyclists going by every now and again, voices, or see lights, red lights heading towards Bath or white lights heading towards Bristol. I'm down here at my cosy little picnic site, enjoying myself. First hot tent camp of the year. Ciao. Well, that curry was fantastic. Halfway through cooking, the heat died down a little bit, so I had to put another log in and wait for it to catch. And I guess I simmered it twice as long as it needed to, which has worked out quite well, because I think it just simmered it and marinated it more. I'm just boiling some soapy water in the frying pan now. I find that the best way to clean out messy frying pans. And that steel cage is one of the 2 accessories that come with this Woods Walker titanium stove. It's all fairly lightweight and compact. That is steel, but I think the trade-off is worth bringing, because it folds up very small, but you can actually dry logs on it. So this is some of the stuff I cut this afternoon. Although it's fairly dry, this will just take all the dampness out of it, and it'll help it catch quicker, and also it'll give more heat. There's just a little bit about why I hot tent camp. I've always been a camper all my life. I've just loved it since I was a late teenager. And it was during the pandemic when everything was closed and I was sat at home longing to be outside. And you may know I love youth hosteling. Well, a lot of the youth hostels are now just almost virtually closed to single travellers. So I started looking for other things to do. And I've even winter camped over the years, and I saw some YouTube videos where people were using things like this, so I just went in at entry level thinking, you know, I'll try it. If I don't like it, I haven't invested too much, and I'll just sell it on. And I just took to it straight away. Actually takes a bit of getting used to get it all in the panniers, hence needing 4 panniers for winter camping. During the summer I only use 2, and I've just come to really enjoy it. I just bought a very cheap teepee tent with a stove jack, that's where the flue goes through, off eBay. It's called Mountain Cattle. Makes you think of the American high plains, doesn't it? It's probably made in China if the truth's known. And the Woods Walker titanium stove, I think that was about £225 at the time, but you know, I've got my money's worth. And I've just come to really like it, and I've just thought, I don't want to upgrade, this tent's fine. I did used to just put ground sheets all over it. Then a couple of years ago, my wife bought me the inner for Christmas, which is just basically like half of the tent at the back. It forms another room. It's not much more than a mosquito net, but it just makes you feel like you've got a separate bedroom. And it is a bathtub design, which basically means the ground sheet comes up to, what's that, 6-7 inches above the ground. So it feels like you're sealed inside there. So it does really feel like a bedroom. And then the vestibule, and I just have this heavy duty ground sheet down here to sit, and I keep that side just uncovered for obvious reasons. It would dry everything. I've got my shoes behind drying. If I've had wet clothes, it'll dry that. Because it's got a central pole, I always decorate that with fairy lights. It just makes everything seem much nicer. And I always bring a CO alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, at the top. Some people say you don't need one, and other people say you should never go hot tent camping without one. So I err on the side of caution. And I have set it off a few times when I just haven't got the dampeners and the airflow quite right. And, you know, it's a warning that if you don't take action, this could kill you. So I would urge caution. But I've come to really like it. I've got the light on the camera at the moment, but when I switched it off, it'll just be lovely and orangey and glowy in here. It's such a lovely feeling on a winter's night, although it's autumn tonight. But I've been up on the Mendips on the highest point of the Fossway before, where it's been snowing up there. And I'm sat in here in shirt sleeves. It really is such a game changer. Anyway, hot tent camping, first time in autumn 2024. I did say I would tell you about my plans for my cycle tour next June. It's going to be more thankful villages. Those of you who followed me for a while will know that I'm about 2/3 of the way through visiting all the UK's 57 current thankful villages. Thankful villages are where every person, man and woman, who went off to serve in the First World War returned home safely. I first started exploring the 9 in Somerset because my county Somerset has more than any other in England and Wales. Sadly Scotland and Ireland don't have any. And then I started noticing there was corridors. I rode from Bath up to York visiting thankful villages. Last year I got the train up to Leeds and then did in effect a square of, I think it was 9 thankful villages, then finished up at Manchester. That's when I had my bike stolen on the way home. There's another little rectangle that I want to explore of thankful villages, and that's from the outskirts of Oxford over to Great Yarmouth. So I'll put a diagram on the screen now. It'll be a rectangle around 6 thankful villages. I keep saying that I make it currently 57 thankful villages. The list is always being updated as more research proves that there's more and more thankful villages. So that diagram, that map with the list of the thankful villages on, was only 54. That's probably my favourite source to put on a screen because I just think it's a well presented map. But you'll see one of the thankful villages I want to go to is not listed, so I've actually added it as number 55. So what I'm going to do is cycle from my hometown of Bath up to the bottom left hand corner of that rectangle, and that will be where the thankful villages part of the trip actually starts. It's on the outskirts of Oxford, and then I'll visit all 6 of those thankful villages, which will take me over into East Anglia, which is rapidly becoming one of my favourite places to go and explore. I just love going over the east side of the country. Everything just seems so new. When I reach the 6th thankful village on that trip, I'm just going to meander up to Great Yarmouth, stay in a travel lodge, freshen up, and then get the train back to Bath. So it'll be a one-way train journey. I've actually researched the train fare prices back from Great Yarmouth, and it's remarkably cheap actually, you know, with the benefit of my senior rail card. And I know they won't be the same next year because prices will go up after Christmas. I think they're due to go up by 4.3%, but it does make it a reasonably affordable holiday. And the other thing I'm going to try and do on that trip is actually stay at commercial campsites. I'm actually going to try my best in the planning to finish at a commercial campsite each night. Whether that plays out or not, I don't know, but that's the theme of the ride for next year. I'll spend the final night at Great Yarmouth Travel Lodge, so I'll probably book that soon after Christmas, and then from March onwards I'll get an idea of what the train prices will be, and then I'll just keep hunting for really super duper cheap train fares. So that's the plan. It'll probably be June because that's my favourite month for cycle touring. Won't be much more than a week. So that's my plans for next year. Thankful villages. After that group of thankful villages, there's another remaining little square or cluster of thankful villages in the Midlands, just the other side of Birmingham. And that's about 4, I think. I might do that on a mini cycle tour even next year, possibly in the spring or the autumn. And then there's just a few outliers. There's one right over in West Wales, there's one up at Aberystwyth. I could probably tie those in with a Welsh trip. And the one that's going to probably be last will be right down on the far east of the country, down in Kent. I'll have to work out some other reasons for going there. I can't really justify going all that way just to leave a poppy at a thankful village. So that's the plan. Next year's cycle tour in June, 6 thankful villages. It's about 10 PM now. I've just closed the door up. I've loaded the wood burner up with remaining logs. I've got a Trangia stove for coffee in the morning. That's all I really want. I don't really want the hassle of relighting the stove and then waiting for it to cool before I can fold it up. So I've just put all the logs on. The amount of heat coming out is incredible. I'm in the tent with the door shut and it's so warm, it's like a sauna in here. I've got a t-shirt on, I've had to take my woolly hat off. Everything's really hot in here. Been hearing fireworks go off all night. I guess it's the Friday before November the 5th, so maybe a lot of firework parties tonight. And heard lots of voices up on the Bath to Bristol bike track, so there's people still going backwards and forwards. Not far from the Bird in Hand pub, so a lot of people either walk or cycle to that. And again, it's a Friday night, so I suppose it's quite busy for that reason. I'll let that burn down 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'll stir the embers, and then when I feel it's safe, I'll probably hit the hay. Just hear all these voices going by. I think they're up on the bike track, but it sounds like they're right outside the tent. Can you hear the roar of the wood burner? It's quite noisy at times, actually, in a nice way. Just the roar of that fire. The heat is hard to describe. It's just really, really almost like a sauna in here. It's so nice, this vestibule. So I drying the tea towel behind it and really warm the tent up, ready to dive in my sleeping bag.